Dumelang, welcome to Face the Nation. My name is Clement Banyatela. Great to have you with us here on SABC News. On the show tonight, Police Deputy Minister Cassel Mathale has concluded his testimony at the parliamentary inquiry investigating corruption and interference in the criminal justice system. He has contradicted some of the testimony of Minister Senzo Mchunu and made it very clear that if he was minister, he wouldn't have done things the way Minister Mchunu did. ND Mashaile is a security strategist and a retired Interpol Ambassador and joins us to unpack that testimony. Also on the show, Member of Parliament Fadiel Adams has laid perjury charges against the KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi for making an allegation against the former minister Bheki Cele during his testimony in Parliament, which he has had to withdraw and apologize for, saying it was a mistake. Adams joins us tonight to explain why he has gone ahead with laying the charges when General Mkhwanazi has already apologized for making that allegation. Also on the show, why did a principal at a school in the Eastern Cape spend about R1 million meant for school meals, learning materials and maintenance on alcohol, fancy restaurants and other luxuries? Well, the Sunday Times reported that 250,000 rand was spent on upmarket restaurants. 450,000 rand in cash was withdrawn from various ATMs. 220,000 or so was withdrawn from tills at grocery stores. This is money that was meant for the school. The Education Department in the Eastern Cape joins us tonight. And then later, in an open letter, a group of Afrikaners have rejected the views of US President Donald Trump about white South Africans. Trump's administration has facilitated a refugee resettlement program, particularly for white Afrikaner farmers. Dr. Lindy Quartz, who is a historian at the University of Pretoria, joins us. But first, my comment. So Cassel Mathale, one of the Deputy Ministers of Police, has concluded his testimony at the ad hoc parliamentary committee. He has basically distanced himself from Minister Senzo Mchunu's decision to disband the political killings task team, saying he didn't agree with how the minister dealt with the matter. He told members of parliament that if he was minister, he would have consulted extensively before disbanding the political killings task team. Remember, the minister said he acted on his wisdom after consulting with his advisor, Vusi Pikoli. Here is the Deputy Minister explaining how he found out about the disbandment of the PKTT.
On the social media, that's where I picked it up. And then he then called, I think, was it? I'm not sure whether it was the first or the second, but early January, that the letter that is circulating, he wrote the letter because I thought it's fake.
He says he doesn't believe that the political killings task team operated illegally.
You know, the discussions around this, it was not based on the legality of the unit or not, because that was never in question. I don't remember a meeting where we discussed that the team is illegal or something like that. That never arose.
The Deputy Minister was also questioned about the minister's comrade, Brown Mkhotsi, whom the minister said he has known for years as a comrade. Concerns have been raised about this man's proximity to the minister and alleged criminals.
Debriefing. When it came up, it was like, that was a hot meeting.
Yes.
What was the KZN Commissioner on about? There was no discussion. You just went your own separate ways and life went on until we had the media briefing. Is that what happened?
No, not until we have the media briefing. The issue was raised, who is this Mkhotsi?
Yeah, now tell us about that. How
no,
was
I'm
it?
saying
We want to know. That's what we're here for.
No, after that.
So who did you have it with?
Hello, with the minister.
And?
No, I don't recall whether
You
was
do
there.
record.
But,
There's no way you don't record that.
no,
I'm
no,
sure
no,
you
no.
even went through it in your head a few times.
No, well, it might have been discussed more than once, but what I know is that the matter was raised with the minister, who is this Mkhwanazi. Yeah, and he assured us that there is nothing untoward about it. Yeah.
So what does the Deputy Minister think about the now famous press conference by the KwaZulu-Natal Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi? He was asked about that.
I think if he was given the opportunity to engage with the executive authority, probably will not have arrived where we are. There have been differences of opinion even when Minister Kele was in the space. Police did not necessarily see things the same way, but it never went to an extent that one of the officers could want to vent their frustrations, the manner in which General Mkhwanazi did. And the differences that he spoke about, I'm convinced that should he has been given an ear, there should have been a way to manage what we find ourselves with.
So far, the National Police Commissioner, Fanima Samola, the KZN Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and now the Deputy Minister of Police, Cassel Mathale, agree that the way that Minister Mchunu disbanded the political killing stars team was questionable. It's only the Deputy National Commissioner, Shadrack Sibia, who has come out in defense of that decision. So the question we're asking you tonight is, given what you have heard so far at the parliamentary inquiry, based on the testimonies that have been presented to this ad hoc committee in Parliament concerning the disbandment of the political killing stars team, do you think that the President can justify retaining the Police Minister Senzo Mchunu in his cabinet? I mean, he's currently on special leave. But given what you have heard so far around how this decision has been taken, what the law says, do you think that the President will be justified in keeping Minister Mchunu in his cabinet? Send us your thoughts right now on WhatsApp on 078-459-1897. Remember to tell us your name and your surname and where you're sending the voice note from, and please keep it at 30 seconds. Alternatively, you can send us an X on @FaceTheNation, SABC. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. So one of the Deputy Ministers of Police, Cassel Mathale, has concluded his testimony at the ad hoc committee investigating corruption, allegations of corruption and interference in the criminal justice system. We've got security strategist and retired Interpol Ambassador Mashaile to just unpack that testimony by the Deputy Minister. Andy, thank you so much for making time for us on Face the Nation tonight. Good evening.
Good evening to you, Clement, and to your viewers.
So the Deputy Minister today seemed to be distancing himself from the decision by the Minister to disband the political killing stars team. How did you assess his testimony?
Clement, he threw the Minister further under the bus. 1, 2, he brought to the public's attention that there isn't any good working relations between himself or between themselves and the minister. For the fact that, which is point number 3, for the fact that you have been sitting there for 12 months and you don't have a performance agreement, you don't have a terms and conditions of operations, it means in some of the matters, some of the decisions that are taken, you are not part and parcel of those decisions. You are also not privy to critical information that will lead the police department to run effectively and efficiently. So these 3 points seem to suggest to both you and I, Clement, that the minister rode the tiger, hoping not to dismount it. Unfortunately, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi pushed the minister to dismount the tiger, which has led to these shenanigans coming out before the ad hoc committee and the Mazanga commission.
One of the things the deputy minister said is that if he was minister, he would have consulted with his team. But then the minister will argue that I did consult with my advisor, Vusi Pikoli, who said that he was satisfied, and the minister then was satisfied with the decision that he had to take. I mean, the deputy minister was also confirming that there was nothing illegal about the work of the task team, which contradicts what the minister and the Deputy Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya seem to believe.
Clement, I'm going to start with the process of establishing the PKTT. The president called various ministries to come into a kind of a committee called the Interministerial Committee. That committee subsequently established the Project Management Committee led by Ntati Khumalo, General Jumsani Khumalo, looking at the operations of a task team. A task team comes out of a unit, Clement, and the task team operated, brought the results or brought the challenges in terms of your cost-benefit analysis, as the minister says. From that framework of the cost-benefit analysis, the costs were too high and the benefits were at a minuscule. And if you look at that establishment process, Clement, when you disestablish or dismantle or dismantle that process, you have to go back through those processes. Ultimately, you go to the owner of the process. The owner of the process is the president, who issued out a request / instruction / commander says, establish the IMC for me, establish a committee that would look at a team that would do the investigations and prevent the killings of the politicians in particularly KZN. So the process that he consulted with the advisor did not establish the PKTT. Is the president through the IMC.
Yeah, and of course, he argued in Parliament that he did inform the president of the decision that he had taken. Let's talk about the issue of the organogram and whether it was designed in response to the political killings task team, because the minister seemed to suggest that the new organogram meant the PKTT had to be dissolved into the murder and robbery unit, but the deputy minister suggests something different.
Clement, the organogram will have units. One of those specialized units would be your special task force, the STF. And a task team would come out of a unit. The murder and robbery unit forms part and parcel of the organogram. And the unit will establish a task team that would go out and hunt Andy, who just killed a few apples brutally and left some oranges lying with pain. And the murder and robbery unit will establish a task team that would go out hunting for me. After the task team has found me or captured me, that task team would go back to the unit after it has completed its mission, fulfilled its mandate. It will be folded up into the unit, and the members of that task team would be sent out to the various stations where they come from.
Yeah. So, Andy, so far, I mean, it's the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, it's the KZN Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and now the Deputy Minister of Police, Cassel Mathale, who all agree that the way the minister disbanded this political killing team was questionable. Is there a way that the minister can survive this? I mean, can the president even justify, based on what has been presented so far, justify keeping him in his cabinet?
I put my head 3 weeks back on the block, Clement. I said Minister Mchunu is definitely not coming back as the Minister of Police. Maybe as an ambassador or in another form. And you are going to ask me, why is that? When you look at public sentiment, when you look at the integrity of the department, it is in tatters, and the legitimacy of the processes is questionable as driven by the minister and his office. When you look at the allegations thrown at the minister and all those big five members, you realize that all the witnesses, Clement, have been corroborating without any shred of a disconnect by those who are following.
Well, Andy Mashaile, thank you so much for speaking to us and helping us unpack the testimony of one of the Deputy Ministers of Police, Cassel Mathale. Andy Mashaile is a security strategist and retired Interpol Ambassador. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. Member of Parliament Fadiel Adams has laid perjury charges against the KZN Police Commissioner, Lieutenant-General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Mkhwanazi retracted the allegations he made before the ad hoc committee against the former police minister, Bheki Cele, that he received money from Vusumuzi Ket Matlala, or that there possibly was an indication that there was an exchange of money. Mkhwanazi later withdrew the statement and apologized. However, some members of Parliament demanded that he return to the committee and formally retract his sworn statement. Fadiel Adams is a member of Parliament and the leader of the National Coloured Congress and joins us now via Zoom. Fadiel, thank you so much for making time for us. Good evening.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to clear the air.
Why have you decided to go ahead and lay these perjury charges against the KZN Commissioner? Some will argue that he's already taken accountability and apologized.
Yeah, well, it's not a domino club. This is Parliament. You've got the time to think about your statement. You actually put pen to paper. You speak to the parliamentary legal team that is going to do the inquest. And then you come and give oral testimony. The man had 4 or 5 times to think about it and say, no, this may not be true. But he went out and said it anyway. This is Parliament. You don't come here with half-baked stories, even if you are General Mkhwanazi.
My understanding is that there are some MPs that have directed that he come and appear before the ad hoc committee so that he can officially withdraw the statement he made. They were not satisfied with a text message or a call that he made to the evidence leader. So far, it doesn't seem like he has issues with that. So if he does appear before the committee and officially withdraws that statement he made, do you think the charges then will still stand?
We're not in favor. If he missed a date or small event, that would be okay. You can come back and apologize. You can possibly send an email and say, hold on a second, I can correct this. I was wrong on this point. But this man stood in front of this committee and lied. He's lied and he's thrown mud and he's made allegations against people and he's brought absolutely no proof with him. So we are taking the hard line with General Mkhwanazi, as he appears to be taking a hard line on everything else. Understand, the General has questioned the credibility of everybody, the judiciary, the NPA, the investigator, the complainant. So the General must take accountability.
Is this personal for you? I mean, the KZN Commissioner has called you out for how he believes you mishandled classified information. This could be seen as revenge from your side and not so much to do with the cleanup in the SAPS as you have suggested.
Let me tell you on the record, I can't hold a grudge, but this is not about me. This is much bigger than me. This is bigger than all of us. This is about the total control of the South African police services. And we believe that there is a band of criminals that is running the South African police services. And we stand in defense of the boys in blue.
Will you be testifying before the commission, especially given that you have information that was leaked to you about the behavior of crime intelligence officers?
It would be highly suspicious if I was not called to this commission, because I've got things to say and I can back up what I say. I'm not coming here like an honorable general making allegations dressed in camouflage. I'm coming here to tell the truth, and I've got documentation to prove a lot of what I say. The commission will make its own findings. I'm not here to influence it. I've been relatively quiet on the issue, but General Mkhwanazi has raised more questions than answers. And let me tell you what I think, if you'll allow me. He called that press conference on the 6th of June and he made 3 big points. The one was the 121 dockets that he alleged that General Sibiya had taken unlawfully. He accused General Sibiya of leaving it in his office to gather dust. When the pudding was tasted and tested, it became clear that the last time those dockets were handled was in 2022. The dockets, in actual fact, had gathered dust on Mkhwanazi's watch. Number 2, the PKTT. He accused the minister of illegally or unlawfully disbanding it. I'm not sure if I'm using the right terminology, but he had a big issue with the disbandment of the PKTT. On the 5th of March, the parliamentary portfolio met. General Khumalo, who is the accused in the cases that I've laid, he is before the courts. He did a presentation. He gave us a slideshow. At round about the 49th minute, he made the admission that we've had only one politically motivated death in KZN this year, i.e., we no longer need this unit, not at a cost of 100 million rand a year. General Mkhwanazi was in that meeting. He did not object. So outlies that allegation as well. If he felt that strongly, here was his chance to say, I disagree. I'm the commander of this unit. This is not how it should be. He was quiet. Point number 3, he mentions a certain MP in possession of secret evidence, secret papers, unlawfully, whatever the case might be. That MP was me. He might as well have mentioned my name. I was in possession of classified documentation. I did what I still think was the responsible thing to do. I took it to the police station because the law requires me as a lawmaker to go and report any crime that has financial implications of more than 100,000 rand. If Mkhwanazi wants to rewrite the constitution, then he must do so. I complied with the law. Okay. He wants me in prison for complying with the law. Okay. Now, I tell you this. If these are the 3 points that this man called this press conference on, throw it out the court today already.
Yeah. So, Fadiel, you've mentioned a number of points, though, that I want to respond to. I think the last point I want, because I've heard you on the show and we spoke about the information that you said was leaked to you, and I've asked you lots of questions around how you handle that information. But the first 3 points that you mentioned there, let's start with the last one. You're saying that Dumisani Khumalo did come to Parliament and indicated that there was one political killing in KwaZulu-Natal. But when you look at the work of the political killings task team over the last couple of years, has it or has it not done a good job? Because even the Minister of Police, even Shadrack Sibiya that you've just mentioned, has never indicated that the political task team has failed in its duty, especially the duty of going after and investigating the political killings task team. So where in the statement of Dumisani Khumalo did he say that there has been a failure by this task team?
He never said there was a failure. He said that we had one politically motivated killing for the year.
Which probably proves to you that the political killings task team has been successful over the years. Do you know how many politicians were killed in KwaZulu-Natal over the last 6 years? Do you know how many of them have been dying every single year? How many have been dying?
Yes, I do.
How many?
Well, they're sitting with 58 murder dockets right now for the last 5 years, and they've got about 50 convictions for politically motivated killings over the last 5 years. Let me throw this curveball at you. How many kids die on the Cape Flats tonight? 10. What is the budget for the AGU? 7 million rand a year. The anti-gang unit, dealing with 3,000 corpses a year, works for 7 million rand. The political killings task team, working with maybe 3-4 murders a year, gets 100 million rand excluding overtime. In that unit, the average monthly overtime is 40,000 rand a month. They sleep 5-star. They eat 5-star. They write off vehicles left, right, and center. And you are asking me to compare this with what's going on here.
Okay, Fadiel, please, let's not confuse the listeners here. Not once did I ask you to compare this with what's happening in the Cape Flats. You are the one that just brought in the issue of the Cape Flats, and I absolutely agree with you. It's a mess over there, and that needs to be attended to. In fact, if you, as a member of parliament, think that there needs to be a political killings task team, how about you start motivating for that? Because it is necessary. I'm asking you about the KwaZulu. I'm asking you. Hold on.
The minister said. Let me quote the minister for you before you go any further.
Okay, you've just made a statement. I need to respond to you, right? I'm asking you about the political killings task team. I'm putting it to you that the reason you've had one, as you indicate that it is what Dumisani Khumalo has said, that should be able to prove to you that actually the work that they've been doing is succeeding. Because 5 years from where we are right now, the situation was completely different. That is why the president established the political killings inquiry. That is why the chairperson of that inquiry, at the end of that long period, decided that we probably need a specialized team that can deal with these killings because it was a crisis. You are telling us now that one person was convicted. And I'm suggesting to you that that speaks to the success of the task team, which Shadrach Sibiya and even the Minister of Police that you have quoted earlier don't seem to contradict.
You've just made my answer. You just made my argument for me. It was needed. Was being the operative word. If you listen to Kamalo himself, he says that we don't need the task team anymore.
You said he didn't say that.
Minutes.
You said, I asked you.
I said IE. You're not listening, sir.
Earlier on, I said to you, I said to you, where in the statement of Dumisani Khumalo did he say that the political killings task team is not needed? You said he didn't say that.
If you go and check the minutes, maybe I didn't hear you right. He says we've had one killing this year and it's no longer needed. It's there. So it's around about the 52nd or 53rd minute. So my question is, why is the PKTT being thrown at us as if it's going to save this country? I'm telling you now that yes, we needed the PKTT. Have they done sterling work? I think they did an okay job. I think they did. We're down to one murder a year. But we've got 58 outstanding dockets. We got 130 people working that at 100 million rand a year. Now, I want to give you context to why I'm so opposed to this. You refuse to listen to the context. I'm telling you that if you come to the Cape Flats, an area the size of Durban, not KZN, we're dealing with 3,000 dead bodies a year. But it doesn't matter because these are colored boys and girls. It doesn't matter. Now, when the minister steps forward and says, I want to give everybody more resources, look at the death toll in the Cape Flats. How can I not support that?
But that's not the reason the minister has given for actually disbanding the political killing task team. And even if that becomes the reason he gives, there's a process that you follow before you disband anything. Before you even take a decision that this thing is unnecessary, you actually get a report first. Did the minister get a report on the success, the functionality of the political killing task team?
Right there. The minister did say so. You've not been watching the ad hoc. However, on the issue of the disbandment, after listening to the DM today, I'm asking myself, could the minister have handled it better? And I have to say yes. He could have been more consultative, irrespective of the fact that I do agree with him. He should have included the DM. He should have had a longer discussion with the NASCOM. He should not have spoken to Mkhwanazi because as per protocol, Mkhwanazi must speak to an MEC. He doesn't speak to the minister. That's not how it works.
But that's precisely what has always been the issue with the decision of the minister. Nobody says the minister is wrong for wanting to try and ensure that even in the Cape Flats, you've got specialized units that are able to respond to the crime levels there. If you've been listening and watching the committee, you'll see that the questions have been focused on the process that the minister has followed. That's why even the deputy minister today was asked extensively about the process the minister followed. As you say, he didn't consult extensively. The case has been made that he went and interfered in operational matters of the SAPS, because as a minister who's a political overseer, you don't just issue an instruction like that. So nobody questions what you're saying, that there's a need for more resources in the Western Cape. The question here is, did the minister act in the right manner? And from what I've heard from you, you agree that he didn't.
No, I'm saying the minister could have done better. I'm sure the minister is adult enough to say I could have done better.
Well, he didn't.
I'm 100% sure. But I'm giving you my justification and my motivation for my stance on this issue. We cannot, under any circumstances, be spending 100 million rand a year investigating a handful of murders. We can't. Mm-hmm. The country can't afford it. And I tell you now that the Cape Flats certainly can't.
Fadiel Adams, thank you so much for making time for us. I really appreciate it. Fadiel Adams, of course, just speaking to us initially in the beginning about the decision is taken to go lay charges against General Mkhwanazi. But of course, towards the end of that conversation, we're having a conversation about what Mkhwanazi has said, what Minister Senzo Mchunu has said, and the questions that members of parliament have raised around the legality and the process that was followed for that decision to be taken. Stay with us here on Face the Nation. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. Here's a reminder of the question we've been asking you tonight on Face the Nation. Given what you have heard so far, right, the testimonies, that have been presented to the ad hoc committee in Parliament concerning the disbandment of the political Killing Stars team. Do you think that the President can justify retaining the Police Minister Senzo Mchunu in his cabinet? Will it make sense for the President to keep him and not take action against him? What are your thoughts? Please send us a WhatsApp voice note. You can send your tweets as well. We'll play them before we wrap up the show this evening. Let's move to this now. Media reports have exposed a shocking abuse of public money at a high school in Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape. The principal of Ulwazi High School in East London, Mashaile, has since been suspended following claims that he diverted over 1 million rand in school funds for personal use in food, alcohol and fuel. Malibongwe Mtima is the Eastern Cape Education Department Spokesperson and joins us now. Malibongwe, thank you for making time. Good evening.
Good evening, Clement, and thanks for...
honestly, I didn't believe the story when I read it. So my first question to you will be, did this principal really spend 1 million rand meant for school meals, for learning materials and maintenance on alcohol, fancy restaurants and other luxuries as reported?
According to our preliminary report, is evidence confirming that. Hence, we're suspended him and conducting a full-blown investigation after that.
When you say your preliminary report, what do you mean? Have you looked at the banking statements? Do you know how much exactly he has spent on what he wasn't supposed to spend on?
Thus far, Clement, our risk directorate conducted this investigation as early as 3 weeks ago. Therefore, last week when we served him having a preliminary investigation of about 16 months, where we picked up that some of these issues are, of course, correct as alleged. Hence, we said, upon getting all those such information, let's suspend him so that we can have a full-blown investigation that will then give us the magnitude a green light as to how far or how much has he spent, because this that we are talking about is just from a preliminary investigation that was testing whether there is prima facie evidence against the allegations that were laid against him.
So when did you actually take action against him? When was he suspended?
He was suspended last week, Friday, just before.
Okay, but your investigation was done a couple of weeks ago. So why was this man suspended only last week? My understanding is that, in fact, you, as the Education Department, you suspended him 2 days after the Sunday Times sent you questions.
When the Sunday Times sent us the question, we were finalizing the investigation that I'm saying was conducted by our risk. Remember earlier this year, the district informed all schools that they must move from using bank cards and use a certain system that is approved by the department. Therefore, a number of these schools didn't follow up, or didn't follow through to the circular and or instruction. Following that, there was an investigation that was conducted by our risk after the district informed them that these schools are not conforming, and as such, they instituted an investigation to check why are these schools not doing this. And it was based on one, the issue of financial mismanagement, two, the issue of sticking to the regulations that have been detailed on the circular. Then when we get or got the questions from the national newspaper, we were already finished with our investigation. And remember, after finishing the investigation, it must be signed off, then given to the person and his representative, if there is a representative representing him.
Okay.
So when we got finalizing the whole process, otherwise the investigation were already done.
Okay. So what, it's a coincidence then that a newspaper sends you questions about the man who has abused the resources that are meant for the school and the school children, and then it just so happens that 2 days later, after you get these questions, your processes are finalized and you suspend the principal. Here's what I want to do. I want to help the viewers understand what we're talking about here. The report over the weekend is that 250,000 rand was spent by this principal on upmarket restaurants. 450,000 rand in cash was withdrawn from various ATMs. 220,000 rand or so was withdrawn from the tills at grocery stores. I mean, these withdrawals, they don't have any corresponding expenditure records, do they? Is there any justification from your preliminary investigation?
Clement, it's embarrassing for an official of such a stature and or a manager of a school to do such, because remember, as the department, whenever we appoint someone, we appoint the person with the hope that such a person will serve the country and the people of the area that is where the school is located. Realizing that there are such monies that have been spent and on all those luxuries, as the department, we really are embarrassed, and as such, hence we took a quick decision that says, upon getting this confirmed by the preliminary investigation, let's take an action that will ensure that we send a signal to others who are practicing that this we do not support, rather we condemn it, and as such will take legal and expedite other options to ensure that this man face the wrath of the law.
And what are all the other options? Because I'm sorry, Malibongwe, but this is beyond embarrassing. And you as the education department coming out and condemning it is not enough. What are you going to do? Have you laid criminal charges against him? Because this is theft. I mean, when you look at some of the payments that are listed on the bank accounts where this man has spent some money, payments at KFC. What is he doing with a school card at KFC, at Pep Store, at liquor stores, at a lounge bar, at a car wash, at butcheries? I can go on and on. This is theft. This is not money that was meant for him. So have you laid a criminal charge?
There are two processes that are going on as we speak. There is an internal investigation that is being conducted. Number two, as the department, we are intending to lay criminal charges against him as soon as we wrap up our administrative processes, which is this week. Following that, we'll speed up the process to ensure that this case does not take longer, so that the information that is readily available from our internal audit is utilized appropriately as we need it.
All right. Malibongwe Mtima, thank you for making time for us. That's the spokesperson for the Education Department in the Eastern Cape. How do you explain that? A principal takes a card. This is money that's meant to address issues for the school. He goes, he withdraws 250,000 rand. He spends it on expensive fancy restaurants. 450,000 rand in cash is being withdrawn at different ATMs. 220,000 at tills at grocery stores. He goes to KFCs, he goes to Pep Store, he goes to liquor stores. He's spending money that is not for him. It's meant for the children. And by the way, there's issues with the school nutrition at the very school that he's the principal of, while he's busy enjoying KFC. And what you get from the Department of Education is what? Condemnation? We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. A group of Afrikaners have penned an open letter rejecting the U.S. government's recent decision to give white South Africans priority for refugee status. The Trump administration has facilitated a refugee resettlement program, particularly for white Afrikaner farmers. The group says to be elevated above others is to reinforce a racialized worldview that elevates whiteness above others. Dr. Lindy Quartz is a historian at the University of Pretoria. Dr. Quartz, thank you so much for making time for us. Good evening.
Thank you very much.
Why have you decided as a group to come out and address this issue?
Well, essentially because we felt that the alternative voice of Afrikaners was not being heard.
Yeah.
We felt that Afrikaners were being made symbols or essentially white bogeymen to scare white populations in the USA and in Europe. And we felt that there were a number of organizations actually leaning into that narrative for political gain, and you didn't hear the counter-narrative. And what you do see is parts of the Afrikaner community are well organized, and those are the organizations that lean into it, while there's a very large progressive component that's not as well organized, that is not heard in our wider discourse. And we felt that it's necessary to say we do not all agree with this. A lot of us are very much opposed to this narrative that's being built around our identity.
Yeah, and of course, I wish what you're saying could go to Donald Trump's ears, but the question is, would he even believe it? Because it seems like they've already taken a decision, they've made up their minds and don't care about any other narrative that comes after that. And I suppose what's difficult here is you do have South African Afrikaners who have taken up this refugee opportunity in the US, and they have told the US government of just the kind of treatment, quote unquote, that they've been getting in this country. So if you were to speak to the US Embassy, if they were watching us now, what is your experience as a white Afrikaner in this country? And does it correlate with the experiences that have been shared by the other side, especially those that have taken up this opportunity in the US?
Well, essentially my experience as a white Afrikaner, having grown up during the final years of apartheid and living through or growing up during the transition as well, I will say land was not dispossessed. People were not driven into the sea. I was still able to have an education and to build a life in this country. And whatever concerns I have, I regard as the same that any South African would have. All South Africans are concerned about, let's say, for example, our safety or our food security or the state of our economy. We are all concerned, or we're supposed to be concerned about inequality, because that's just an assault on everyone's human dignity. Yeah. If my neighbor is not doing well, then I can't do well either. So as far as I'm concerned, this narrative being peddled serves the purposes of a very particular, very tiny minority group. And I think it's quite significant to see that the amount of Afrikaners who have not taken up that option. Yeah. You've had a number of refugees with their suitcases piled high at Oliver Tambo, and others not even pitching up because they're still busy selling their properties. In fact, media reports suggest that the US booked dozens of seats for Afrikaner refugees, but only 3 actually rocked up. And I wonder if this is a signal that there's a large rejection of this refugee status. Some, from the media reports I've seen, have also started coming back to South Africa. No, indeed. I mean, there are media reports, especially in the Afrikaans media, of some of the first group of refugees who went to the US and actually feel quite disillusioned. It's not as easy there as here in South Africa, especially if they run into medical difficulties and do not have health insurance in the US. That is an absolute nightmare. Not that our system is perfect, but there are places where it can be even harsher. And also, refugee status means you can't return to your friends and family. You're not going to come back for holidays and Christmas. That's not how refugee statuses work. No, and also... In fact, you left because you fled instability, isn't it? No, precisely. I mean, how many refugees in war zones have the time to still sell off their possessions and get their things in order? And that is also part of what we are trying to debunk. What does it mean to be a refugee? In our case, or in South Africans' case, all South Africans face concerns and challenges. But we are not in a war zone. We are most definitely not fleeing for our lives in the same way that people in Gaza and Sudan are fleeing for their lives. How do you think Trump's project plays into this narrative about white identity being under an existential threat? Well, that's part of the main point. I don't think they care about Afrikaners at all. I don't think they know much about Afrikaners, actually. And what they are doing is to peddle this narrative of, look what happens to whites when they become a minority. Forgetting that Afrikaners have always been a minority in this country. But they are fear-mongering that the US might not be majority white by 2050. There's fear-mongering in Europe that migration and multiculturalism means that, again, the local populations will lose their majority status, and hence then they point to, in inverted commas, the hardships of this particular white minority. Minority status has always been the case. So it's being taken out of context in order to drive right-wing propaganda. And again, that is why we penned this open letter, because it doesn't reflect our values.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Lindy Quartz, from your mouths to Trump's ears, thank you so much for coming through and speaking to us. I do think that your voice matters. It's important to hear the alternative voice, as much as we've also given the others an opportunity to tell us what their experiences have been. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you.
Dr. Quartz is a historian at the University of Pretoria. Let me thank you for watching the Tuesday edition of Face the Nation. We'll be back with you on Thursday at 8 p.m. Have a good evening. Cheers.